You step up to the roulette table. You look at all your options, red, black, a row, a section. You got so many options. Maybe bet on the corners, spread your chips around, hedge your bets. But did you know that no matter what strategy you pursue, there's one guarantee: the house always wins. If you're unfamiliar with your options, let me lay them out for you. Roulette is a very simple game. You have numbers 1 through 36 split into red and to black. And then you have the green spaces, 0 and 00. The goal: place your bet, hope the ball lands where you want it to, and if you hit, you win at the odds set by the house. Bet on a single number, big payout. Spread your wealth across the board. Lower payout, but also lower risk. But see, no matter what strategy you cook up or what you think you know about this board, Vegas has already thought about it. The house has calculated every possible move you could make, every strategy you could pursue. It knows exactly how to set those odds so that you want to play, but that they'll always win. Let's pan out for a second. Because what if I told you our investor market, our economy, looks very similar to this roulette table? I know that sounds crazy, but stay with me. See, just like at the roulette table, you have choices in the investment world. You can invest in tech, you can invest in food, you can invest in medicine, you could invest in a magazine, you can invest in whatever you would like, and the odds will be a direct reflection of the risk that you take. You can bet on entire rows, sections. The free market's incredible. You can place your investment wherever you would like on the table. So what do? You place your best bets. Maybe you play it safe. Maybe you go aggressive, but can you even afford to play? See, at a roulette table, they have these things called minimums. And if you can't reach the minimum bet, well, you're not allowed to play. And that's the problem for many people looking to get into the investment space, is the ability to not even get started altogether. So maybe instead of playing at the table, you think of something different. I want to own a roulette table.
I want to own them all by myself.
Now, in a real casino, you can't just walk in and buy a roulette table. They're not going to let you do that. They own that. But in the economy, ownership of an asset is just that. Owning a business, owning a stock in a company. As long as people are sitting at the table investing into the growth of the country, those assets, like real estate, will keep going up and up in value so long as the country, the casino, keeps getting more and more valuable.
Interesting analogy.
Because they're assets, and if you hold them long enough, they tend to gain in value. And here in the economy, unlike the casino, the longer you sit at the table, the more likely it is that your value is going to keep going up, because over time, you're probably going to win. Now think of the minimum at this table like a cover charge to get in on the investing world. And every year that passes, entry into these games, or the ability to own one of these games, gets increasingly higher and higher in cost. And from the outside, it's not very difficult to see. Things are getting more expensive, but you also see people on the floor having fun, winning money, gaining equity. You want to do that, but when you approach the board, you realize the minimum's too high. I can't even play, and I can't even begin to think about owning one of these things. So what do? You do what everybody does. You get a job, you gain some income, you grow something so that you can get enough money to get in on the game. Now, the price of these roulette tables, assets, have skyrocketed in price since COVID-19, with the average price of a home across America going up over 47%. But what if you could maybe rent a table for a while, get a taste of what it feels like, save up while you do so? Well, the price of that went up too. As some are realizing the cost to rent something even for a day or a week is what they make in income in a day or a week, and is no longer affordable for them. So what do? You work for the casino, you pick up more shifts, you work even harder, you grip your bootstraps and you pull them up as hard as you can, and you work hard for the American dream, the dream of getting to play on the floor at the casino. But there's a problem. For starters, you can't just leave the casino when your parents brought you to this casino, no matter how much money they gave you before you walked in or not. You've only known this casino, its rules and its ways. And while you work at this casino, they also provide the food and the lodging and the healthcare and all of the things you need to get by, but at a cost. See, every step of the way, as you're going through your career at the casino, the house is getting a cut of everything. Property taxes, power bills, healthcare, even the cost that your manager has to pay, even to pay you. That's called income tax, is going to the house. And these constant cuts everywhere leave your income lower, barely giving you enough to get by, nevertheless put money aside to one day play on the floor. So even though you're working hard in a great career here at the casino and doing everything you were told to do, you're hardly getting by, still feeling stuck. You can make just enough to live in the casino, but you'll never be able to play the games that make it so popular. But here's what's even crazier, is this isn't just one casino. See, there are hundreds of casinos across the world. Some are born into different casinos. Some travel to different casinos. Some have family that have been raised in the casinos for decades and they know the owners. There's all different types of scenarios and all different types of layouts. And within every casino, there's different groups. Some focus on money, some focus on the entertainment, some focus on the food or just having a good time. But there are definitely some that are focused specifically on making sure they can make the most money possible. These are the ones that make the real money, and they don't just have influence in one casino. They have control either politically or financially over all of them, or at least the ones that they want. Whether you'd like to define it as 4 companies, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, and Blackstone, or 13 bloodlines. These are the conglomerates, the oligarchs that maneuver their money throughout all the casinos. And even though they own the casino, they own the management, they own the tables themselves, they also put chips on the table. They have money on every square, every market stacked so high that even if you wanted to place your chip in, you'd hardly be able to tell it was there. And because they own the table in the casino itself, it does not matter where that ball lands, they're always gonna get paid. And here's the kicker. If you're sitting at the casino wondering what you can do to avoid being a part of this, it's hard. If you wanna retire at the casino, they fund all the retirement funds, pension funds, 401ks. If you wanna eat at the casino and avoid one of the places that the big casino owners funded, good luck, because they funded or are invested into all of them. And if you want to bet on a different casino or even move to a different casino altogether, good luck. They don't make it easy. And they own stake in all those casinos too. So it wouldn't really change. If one is outperforming the other, they can diversify and shift their funds, keeping their power intact at all times, making sure that even if a casino does fall, that they could just bail it out, because families get foreclosures and banks get bailouts.
We have some breaking news from BlackRock.
Blackrock.
Today, we see company after company, investment fund after investment fund, buying up assets and buying up roulette tables and casinos at scale. And though these funds aren't a casino themselves, they own just enough of every single one to have a major share without having to own them physically, making them a dominant financial threat. And again, not a casino themselves, with the financial threat of consistent ownership across the board and the massive scale of money they have on the board, they would actually be considered the 3rd largest casino on the planet if you were to measure how much each one was worth. But hold up, this sounds like a monopoly. You can't just own everything. That's why monopoly laws exist, no? Monopoly law, antitrust law, actually doesn't protect this from happening at all. You can own, influence, be a part of as many casinos as possible. In fact, to really know what a monopoly is, we gotta go all the way back to the roulette table. See, on the roulette table, you see red, you see black, you see odd, even, and you see numbers. Now, if we were to zoom into one of those numbers, let's say food, we would start to see, as we zoomed in, more and more tiny circles. And these tiny circles could be like tortillas and ice cream and soda or potato chips. And if you were to zoom into each and every one of those at a time, you would start to see more circles, 5 to 8 major brands that represent that genre of food. And so long as you as the consumer can choose between 5 to 8 major options for that segment of food or tech or pharma, it's not a monopoly, because a monopoly means you as the consumer don't have a choice in product. And so long as they own a piece of all of your options and even own all of the companies that give you all of those options and then have influence in the countries, the casinos, that make the options possible, well, they're so far removed from being considered a monopoly, it's not even close. Because the truth is, at the end of the day, no matter if you view this as a casino or a country, no matter what strategy you pursue, some will make it, but the house will always win.